When we talk about the Council of Nicaea, many people imagine a room full of bishops by choosing which books would be part of the Bible, defining the doctrine of the Trinity of Zero, or even making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. But what if I tell you that this is a big mistake? The truth is that the Council of Nicaea, held in 325 AD, was called by Emperor Constantine for a very specific purpose: to solve a theological controversy that threatened the unity of the early church. Did the main debate revolve around the nature of Jesus Christ? Was he divine? And this question generated a crack within Christianity, giving the followers of Arius and the defenders of Christ's consubstantiality face to face. What happened in Nicaea not only shaped Christian theology, but also had deep political implications. The Roman Empire, which until recently persecuting Christians, has now seen in Christianity an instrument of unity. Nicene Creed, Easter decisions, and ecclesiastical canons were just some of the resolutions that came out of this historical encounter. But did Nicaea solve all the questions, or pave the way for new disputes that would redefine the future of the Christian faith? Let's explore, step by step, the events of this council and understand once and for all what really happened. When it comes to the Council of Nicaea, there is no shortage of wrong theories. One of the most popular says it was there that the bishops decided which books would be part of the Bible, as if they had made an official selection of the sacred texts. But in fact, the biblical canon had been debated for centuries and was only officially consolidated in later councils. Nicaea focused on another central question: the doctrinal controversy about the divinity of Jesus Christ. Another widespread myth is that the council invented the doctrine of the Trinity. But the truth is that the idea of a triune God has been debated since the early centuries of the early church. What Nicaea did was reinforce the view that Jesus and the Father were of the same essence, that is, consubstantial. The Greek term used for this, homoousios, was the key point of the Nicene Creed, a document that defined the Church's official position on the subject. Many people also believe it was in Nicaea that Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, but this only happened in AD 380, with Emperor Theodosius I and the addiction of Thessalonica. What Constantine did in Nicaea went to seek a way to maintain the unity of the empire, because the dispute between Christians was causing divisions that could threaten political stability. His interest was more strategic than theological. Whether in the matter of the Bible, Trinity, or the officialization of Christianity, it is important to understand that Nicaea has not created anything from scratch. He consolidated debates that already existed and gave official answers to conflicts that were shaking the church. But far from ending the discussions, this council was only the first of many theological clashes that would come later. And by the way, what really motivated this historical meeting? Let's find out now. The Council of Nicaea was not just a religious meeting, but a decisive event in the history of Christianity. The great reason for his call was the Arian controversy, a heated debate about the nature of Jesus Christ. The elder of Alexandria argued that Christ was not eternal as the Father, but a divine creation, subordinate to God. This view went against the belief that Jesus was consubstantial to the Father, that is, of the same essence. The dispute has taken proportions so great that it divided the churches and generated conflicts within the empire. Faced with this impasse, Emperor Constantine realized that he needed to intervene. He had promoted religious freedom with the Edict of Milan, but did not want his newly united imperial policy threatened by internal fights among Christians. Therefore, in 325 AD, he summoned the bishops to a synod in Nicaea, seeking to establish a consensus on the issue. It was the first time an emperor had gathered the church to define doctrines, showing how religion and imperial politics were increasingly interconnected. The result of the debate was clear: Arius' view was condemned as heresy. The bishops decided that Jesus Christ was generated, not created, and that he was of the same substance as the Father. To officialize this position, they wrote the Nicene Creed, a document that reaffirmed the full deity of Jesus and rejected any idea that there was a time when he did not exist. Those who refused to sign the creed were excommunicated and even exiled. However, this did not mean the end of the debate. Arianism would still have strong influence in the following years, including the support of later emperors. The Council of Nicaea was only the first big step in the definition of Christian theology, But far from ending the disputes, it paved the way for new challenges and tensions within the church. And it was not just this issue that the bishops discussed. Another important point was the standardization of one of the most significant celebrations of Christianity, Easter. Although the great focus of the Council of Nicaea was the Arian controversy, other issues also entered the agenda. One of the most practical debates concerned the celebration of Easter. At the time, Christian communities had no consensus on the exact date in which they should celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Some churches followed the Jewish calendar, while others adopted their own calculations. This caused divisions and some confusion within the early church. To resolve this issue, the bishops have decided that Easter should not depend on the Jewish calendar, but to be calculated independently. The criterion established was that the celebration should take place on the first Sunday after the first full moon of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. This decision helped unify festivity between different Christian communities and prevent each church from adopting a different date. The influence of Constantine's politics can be seen here as well, as he wanted a cohesive church within his empire. In addition to Easter, the council also approved several rules for the discipline of the clergy. Among the established ecclesiastical canons were restrictions against usury, the loan of money with abusive interest, and norms about the behavior of bishops and priests. One of the decisions was the prohibition that members of the clergy live with women who were not their mothers, sisters, or aunts, to avoid scandals and suspicions. The central concern was to maintain the moral integrity and authority of religious leaders. These resolutions show that the Council of Nicaea was not limited to Christian theology, but also dealt with practical issues to organize the structure of the church. However, if there is a document that really marked this meeting, it was the Nicene Creed. He officially defined the Christian faith and became a reference for the following centuries. But what exactly were its main points, and why was it so important? Let's find out now. Nicene Creed was the most important document produced in the Council of Nicaea. He not only resolved the Arian controversy, but also established a solid basis for Christian theology. His central point was to say that Jesus Christ was generated, not created, and consubstantial to the Father. This meant that he was not a God's creation, as he said, but eternal and of the same divine essence. These words were accurately chosen to eliminate any ambiguity and reaffirm the Trinity as a fundamental part of the Christian faith. The document also explicitly condemned the Arian ideas, stating that those who said that there was a time when the Son did not exist were wrong. This firm posture demonstrated that the Church was determined to eliminate any gap for divergent interpretations. But despite this official decision, Arianism has not disappeared overnight. On the contrary, it continued to be an influential force within the empire, especially with the support of some later emperors. Another impact of Nicene Creed was its adoption over the centuries as a universal declaration of the Christian faith. Even after adjustments at the Constantinople Council in 381 AD, he remained an essential reference for Christian orthodoxy. Both Catholic and Orthodox churches, and even some Protestant denominations, still recite the Creed in their cults. This longevity shows how Nicaea deeply shaped Christianity and defined what was considered heresy within the Church. The influence of Creed also went beyond religion, impacting imperial politics. Emperors began to see Christian orthodoxy as a tool to maintain the unity of the empire, which generated new persecution against dissident groups. But all this leads us to an important question: if the council was a religious event, why did Emperor Constantine get so involved? What was your real interest in this? Let's understand now. Although the Council of Nicaea was a meeting of bishops, the figure behind it was Emperor Constantine. But what was his real interest? Many believe that he was a devout Christian trying to define the doctrine of faith, but the truth is a little different. For Constantine, the unity of the empire was a priority. Christianity was already growing rapidly, and internal conflicts between different theological currents threatened political stability. The emperor wanted a unified church to strengthen his government. Since issuing the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, allowing religious freedom, Constantine has realized that Christianity could be a great ally in the structuring of the empire. However, the dispute between Arians and Nicaeans put this new order at risk. The emperor did not understand all the theological details, but knew he needed to solve this crisis before it became even greater. Therefore, He summoned the council and even participated in the discussions, pressing for the bishops to reach a consensus. Despite his attempt to stay neutral, in the end, Constantine supported the group that defended Christ's consubstantiality and approved the Nicene Creed. He went further. He ordered the bishops who refused to sign the document to be exiled, including Arius himself. This imperial interference demonstrated how the church and the state were increasingly intertwined. Christianity, who was previously persecuted, now had the emperor's protection, but was also subject to his influence. However, Constantine's position on the subject was not as firm as it seems. Shortly before he died, he rehabilitated Arius and was baptized by an Arian bishop. This shows that his main concern has never been Christian theology, but imperial politics. Nicaea was only the beginning of this complex relationship between secular power and the church. But what about the Bible question? Did Nicaea really define the sacred books, as many believe? Let's clarify this point now. One of the greatest myths about the Council of Nicaea is the idea that it was where the bishops decided which books would be part of the Bible. Many people imagine that there was a vote to choose which Gospels would be accepted and which one would be discarded, but that simply did not happen. The biblical canon was already being discussed long before the council and continued to be debated for centuries later. Nicaea's focus was Christian theology, not the selection of sacred texts. At the time, the churches already used many of the books that are now part of the New Testament, such as the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Lucas, and John, as well as Paul's letters. However, there were still some regional differences, with some Christian communities accepting other writings. The official definition of the biblical canon only occurred in later councils, such as Carthage, in 397 and 419 AD. That is, the Bible as we know it today was the result of a gradual process, not a decision made in Nicaea. So where did this confusion come from? One of the reasons may be in the fact that Constantine, after the council, ordered 50 Bible copies for the Constantinople churches. But that does not mean that he chose which books would be part of the sacred text. He only funded the production of copies to encourage the unification of the church. The idea that Nicaea chose the books of Holy Scripture came long later, often fueled by conspiracy theories and popular fictions. With this, it is clear that Nicaea had nothing to do with the definition of the biblical canon, but with Christian orthodoxy. However, even with all the decisions made, the council did not put an end to conflicts within the church. The divisions and theological disputes continued, and new challenges have emerged in the following years. What Nicaea really did was take an important step in the organization of the Christian faith, but without resolving all the issues. The Council of Nicaea was a milestone in the history of Christianity. Not only did he solve one of the greatest doctrinal controversies of the time, but also strengthened the relationship between the early church and imperial power. The debate on the consubstantiality of Jesus Christ, the condemnation of Arianism, the creation of the Nicene Creed, the standardization of Easter, and the first attempts to organize the clergy were just some of the impacts of this meeting. But did he really resolve the conflicts within the church? In practice, Nicaea was not the end of the disputes, but the beginning of new theological clashes. Arianism remained influential for decades, and the relationship between the Church and the Roman Empire has only become more complex in the following centuries. The attempt to maintain orthodoxy also led to persecution against those considered heretics, showing that the search for unity has often been accompanied by coercion. This leads us to an important reflection: how have decisions made for so many centuries still impact the Christian faith today? Nicene Creed continues to be recited in churches around the world, and the debates about the Trinity, the Bible authority, and the relationship between religion and politics follow alive. Understanding what really happened in Nicaea helps us separate fact from fiction and better understand the roots of Christianity we know today. Now, I ask you, how does this story change your vision about faith and church? Leave your comment below, and if you want to keep diving in this universe, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and follow more content like this. The history of Christianity is full of twists, and that was just one of them.